Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass. Thank you for watching this Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Well, a couple of days ago, we were having a lot of discussion about the overall flow pattern and how it's shifted recently. And one of the big indicators of this shift was going to be this wave right in through here. So what we're looking at here, this is 2 days ago. This is back on the 9th. Deep trough was forming off of the west coast of California. We mentioned this in our last video as introducing quite a bit of precipitation to the west coast. It's this same trough that we're watching over the next 2 days as it moves across the center part of the country that's going to be causing some major problems. Now, as this trough was sitting off the west coast, it funneled a lot of moisture into California. And over kind of a 2-day time period, look at all the precipitation that came into California before that wave really moved onshore. So you can kind of watch it again. Lots and lots of precip, and there comes the wave right there at the very end. Well, this much precipitation falling in California after a very, very dry season where they had a lot of wildfires break out, a lot of topsoil that's been left exposed, and as a consequence with all this precipitation, there's tragically been several mudslides. And here's just a few pictures that we've seen kind of crawling across the web of how devastating some of the mudslides have been just getting into homes here. When you get that much mud and debris moving, it can just really push quite a bit of material, as the mud just really gets flowing. And you're going to see that the cleanup effort is going to be substantial and it's going to last many, many days in California. And here's just a picture of a car completely full of mud. So tragically, with these events, we've also heard deaths maybe as high as 17. I don't know the official number as of the recording of this video very, very early in the morning on Thursday, but still a substantial event to be dealing with. Well, that same wave that you saw sitting here off of California has now made its way into the center part of the United States. And what we've got is kind of two shots out of this wave at developing a couple of low pressure systems. And when you look at the map here, this is valid for early Thursday morning. This is the weather.gov all hazards weather map. We've got it all. We have winter weather advisories where you see this blue in through here. We got blizzard warnings up here in the Dakotas, winter storm warnings right in through here, high wind warnings. This is a winter storm watch out here. And basically, the things are just going in the middle part of the country. So let's kind of talk about what we're seeing right now and break this whole system down. So let's get back to these great 4-panel plots to kind of understand this. Now, the current wave is sitting right here. So this is the position of the jet stream. And I want you to watch over here to see where we see our main vorticity centers kind of moving, because that's going to tell us what this system's going to do. We're going to see how the temperatures respond in the bottom left and what the precipitation does here in the bottom right. Let me kind of step forward here to get us into about midnight on Thursday when I'm making this video. What we see here is this is our first little vorticity maximum, and it's going to be the top part of this overall trough, and it's going to eject very quickly toward Wisconsin. And as it does this, out ahead of it, we have a lot of very warm air that's piling up through Illinois into Wisconsin. Temperatures here in the 50s, just racing to the north. And what's going to happen is that's going to be basically creating an elongated area of lower atmospheric pressure as we draw all that moisture, and it's going to be creating on the backside where the cold air is sneaking in this broader trough, the perfect setup for a nice tight band of snow. And so it's going to be this area right in through here as we watch our day unfold on Thursday that we're going to expect to see quite a bit of heavy snow. It's going to be very narrow, but definitely some heavy snow. Again, that was associated with this vorticity maximum here. But middle of the day on Thursday, look at this. It's the base of this deep trough that's going to be kicking off the next low pressure center that's going to be going through the lower Mississippi River Valley. And that's the second one we got to be concerned about for the rest of this week. Now, as we move forward here, I want you to really pay attention to what the model is forecasting this wave to do in terms of precipitation type. So we see a lot of heavy rain out ahead of it, but you see this color right in through here? That is a potential icing event. On the backside, it's snow where there's just enough cold air throughout the entire depth of the atmosphere to make some snow. But between here, we've got this potential for ice. I'm going to talk about this a whole lot more in just a few moments. But as I continue to animate this out, we can see that the eastern part of the Corn Belt does get a pretty good bit of snow, and this moves on off to the north and to the east with timers. So some snow that goes all the way from Illinois racing all the way up into the northeastern part of the United States. And the cold air really comes in behind this by the time we get into Saturday. So this is just another shot at some pretty serious cold air. Now, as this trough moves on off to the east, there's one thing I want you to be on the lookout for. You see, as it tries to move out, we are going to be seeing another kind of lobe of colder air kind of come through. And as it does so, you can expect to maybe see Sunday into Monday scattered snow showers across a big section of the Corn Belt and some more lake effect snow as this trough kind of tries to exit on off to the northeast. But watch this. As it does finally move out, we're actually going to build a bit of a ridge back into the middle part of the country as we get into middle of the week next week. And as that happens, this will be our next shot at warming back up. But you're going to see that the atmosphere is going to kind of reload here again with another trough coming in off of the west coast. And we gotta watch this closely. We don't know much of the details about this at this point, but let's just imagine that the models did a pretty good job in finding this particular trough. And if it does, this is another center U.S. Cyclone that's going to move right across the eastern Corn Belt and cause more troubles for the Ohio River Valley. So we've kind of set ourselves up into a pattern that's going to be very active, at least for several days. Big drop-offs in temperature this weekend, then a warm-up midweek next week, and then another system we have to watch. But I want to get back to that ice. The ice is the stuff I want to talk about right now. So this is from HPC, and what we're looking at here is the 72-hour probability of freezing rain accumulating of at least 1/10 of an inch, and that's all you need to make it for some serious driving hazards. So you can see here right in this part of the country, so Illinois is here, we're getting over here into parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana. This area is right now got a pretty high probability of at least seeing an accumulation of a 1/10 of an inch. Now I'm going to show you what we have to watch for meteorologically for this to happen. So I'm going to take you right here near kind of Evansville, Indiana, right on the border of Kentucky and Indiana and Illinois. And this is what our models kind of give us. It gives us a profile of the temperature from the surface all the way until you get into the stratosphere. And the diagram we plot this on is a diagram that we call a skew T log P. Now, all you need to know about this is what I've shaded over here in this very light red is where the temperatures on this diagram are above freezing. So we can see that by the time we get into late in the evening on the 11th, so this is Thursday around 6 p.m., that the temperature profile goes into an above freezing pattern once we get below the lowest 2 miles of the atmosphere. Now this is for, again, Evansville, but watch this. As the cold air sneaks under there, getting into the overnight hours on Thursday night into Friday morning, as the cold air comes sneaking under this, we have surface temperatures that go diving here below freezing. Whereas above it, right in through here, we have a pocket of air that's above freezing. So below freezing air at the surface, above freezing air kind of sandwiched between that and some colder air aloft. Now, what's the point? Snow that's generated up here is going to fall into this above freezing air and melt, but it's going to then freeze on contact with any surface that has a temperature that is at or below freezing at the surface, and that is your freezing rain setup. As the system continues to progress, we expect temperatures to really drive, really start to fall off here, and as the temperatures get much colder, we're going to probably move over to an all-snow regime, maybe a little bit of sleet in there. But that's the overall forecast for this area. So that's what we have to look out for. It's that sandwiching effect of the warm air aloft and the very cold air right at the surface, which allows the water to freeze on contact. Now, I want to show you an animation from the NAM model here. I like the way that the NAM is kind of picked up on the overall snowfall pattern, getting us through Sunday, early Sunday morning. So again, here's that narrow band of heavier snow that we just talked about that's going to be moving through on Thursday, right in through here. But this system is going to break up as the overall dominant trough sets up down here in the lower Mississippi River Valley. Now, before we get into this snow, remember it's going to start off as rain and transition over to freezing rain, sleet, and then come in as snow. But right now, the NAM model is picking up on enough here to give us a few inches of snow right in this area. In fact, Tennessee and Kentucky, both the NAM and GFS are putting pretty good chances for some snow falling through here. The European model, not nearly quite as much, but we are expecting a band coming through parts of central Indiana and then getting over to Ohio and then getting over to Pennsylvania and up into New York. We're going to see another rather large band of snow. This could still move back either to the west or maybe even shift a little east with time, but this is the current position as of late in the evening on Wednesday night. So that's our snowfall forecast getting us through Sunday. And again, remember, we have another system coming through at the end of next week. So I have to be watching this very carefully. That's very active for the Ohio River Valley. Now, I'm going to switch our attention to South America because we've got some new updates I really need to share with you. We're looking at the last 30 days here in terms of the percent of normal precipitation. And we know that most of Brazil has been doing just fine so far this year in terms of precipitation. Some pockets of dryness, but nothing that's causing major concern. Our concern, as we've been discussing quite a bit, has been over the growing regions in southern Brazil and getting into Uruguay, and then certainly getting into Argentina. And even though we've seen recently some precipitation, a couple of systems move through Cordoba, Buenos Aires, these areas, there's still a lot of concern about what the conditions are looking like as they're finishing up planting some of the crop down here. Let's take a look at the longer range forecast, at least getting out the next 10 days. The Brazilian monsoon does shift a little bit farther to the south, which means the next 10 days is going to leave this area up here relatively dry compared to average. But this is, again, nothing to be really too concerned about because they've got so much moisture in the soil. We can see that the northern growing regions in Brazil, as forecast by the European model, are picking up in a wetter pattern. But part of Buenos Aires province, part of southern Cordoba is actually looking to be drier than average over the next 10 days. So this again is some potential stress on that Argentinian crop, but it's not painting too negative of a picture at this point. But I do want to show you this, the latest long-range projections from the 8 models that go into the National Multi-Model Ensemble have come out, and what they're looking at for the February, March, April time period, again, is that drier bias, Tocantins, Goiás, and parts of Mato Grosso, and then the far eastern part of the growing regions of Brazil. Seems to be the Brazilian monsoon still wants to come through, right in through here, but looking again at a drier pattern setting up, at least by the 8 global models here I'm talking about, down here in parts of Argentina and Uruguay. So this is some new data that come out, but it's a supportive forecast of what we've been seeing in the last few months. So at this point, it's kind of a let's continue to wait and see how things evolve. But that first bean crop that's going to be coming out of Brazil right now, there's nothing kind of impeding it from being a pretty decent crop. I will say this, in a lot of our longer range models, when we kind of look at the individual models, they do pick up on a rather dry February, both here in the Brazilian growing regions and also down here in the Argentinian growing regions. So that's a pretty big concern. But with that, what we got to do is we just got to keep watching to see how each week the precipitation comes in. So I'll go ahead and wrap up the forecast video with that information. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out on Monday. Get Morning Farm Report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows you a snapshot of your field conditions each morning. Go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for our free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield program or for our growers who work with AD merchandisers. Look forward to talking again after the weekend.